If you like storytime vibes, hit subscribe and let's dive in together.
The moment I stepped into that ballroom, I saw my wife pressed against a wall, cornered, silent, while her boss whispered into her ear with his hand gripping her waist like he had every right to touch her. She didn't scream. She didn't push him away. She just froze, and that was all it took to destroy me. I wasn't supposed to see it. I arrived earlier than planned, hoping to surprise Olivia with a drink and maybe pull her away from the crowd so we could go home early. I never liked corporate parties, but I liked being near her. It felt simple, safe, predictable, but the world doesn't warn you before it turns on you. The ballroom lighting was dim, warm, golden, meant to flatter people who didn't deserve to look good. Music thumped low in the background, blending with chatter and rehearsed laughter. I scanned the room, searching for Olivia, and then I found her, not smiling, not networking, not even aware of the room around her. She was standing near a side wall, half hidden behind a tall floral arrangement, and pinned beside her, so close his breath fogged her hair, was him, Richard Hale, her manager, a man who, up until that moment, I believed was nothing more than a demanding superior with too much influence over her schedule. His hand wasn't resting politely on her arm. It was gripping her waist, firm, possessive, familiar. Not something a boss does, not something a coworker does, not something a stranger tries. It was a touch that suggested history. My chest tightened so abruptly it felt like someone had punched the air out of me. My legs stopped moving, as if my body refused to walk into the truth I was staring at. Richard leaned down, lips dangerously close to her ear. I watched Olivia's eyes, wide, unfocused, terrified of making a scene. She didn't lean into him, but she didn't shove him away. And that small hesitation hit harder than any confession ever could, because hesitation meant comfort. Comfort meant familiarity, and familiarity meant betrayal. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The air tasted metallic, sharp, wrong. My hearing collapsed into a numb ringing. All I could see was her face, strained, trapped, and yet not shocked enough. If this had been the first time, she would have recoiled. If he had crossed the line out of nowhere, she would have raised her voice. If this were harmless, she would have brushed him off. But she didn't. Her stillness was the loudest answer she could have given. My heart hammered so violently, I felt it in my palms. A hot wave of nausea rolled through my stomach, and I grabbed a table edge to keep myself upright. In that instant, the truth became undeniable. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a drunk man overstepping. This was a man who knew her body, and a woman who was too familiar with his touch to even look surprised. And I, her husband, had walked straight into the moment that proved my marriage was not what I thought it was. I don't remember making the decision to move toward them. My body moved before my mind could catch up. One moment I was frozen, gripping the edge of a table to stay upright, and the next I was walking, fast, deliberate, unstoppable. Every step felt like I was walking deeper into a nightmare I couldn't wake from. Richard didn't see me approach. He was too busy leaning even closer to Olivia, laughing under his breath like they shared some private joke. His hand tightened on her waist in a way that made bile rise in my throat. Olivia finally noticed me. Her eyes widened, not with guilt, not with fear, but with panic. And panic is what truly broke me, because panic meant she didn't want me to see this, which meant she knew exactly what it looked like, which meant she knew it was wrong. I closed the distance in 3 long strides. "Take your hand off her," I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. It was too steady, too controlled, too cold for someone whose heart was shattering. Richard turned, annoyed at first, then surprised, then smug. "Oh," he said with a lazy smile. "You must be the husband." Something inside me twisted violently. He didn't release her waist. That single act, his defiance, his entitlement, sent a surge of heat roaring up my spine. Let go, I repeated, my voice low enough that only the three of us heard it. Olivia whispered my name, begging me with her eyes not to escalate. But the time for restraint had already died the moment she let him touch her like that. Richard chuckled, actually chuckled, and said, "It's just workplace friendly, man. Relax." That word, friendly, made my vision flash white. I stepped in closer, close enough he had to tilt his head to look at me. "You touch her again?" I murmured, "and you'll understand exactly what it feels like to lose your position." His smirk flickered. That was the first crack. Then I reached out, not to strike him, not to shove him, but to remove his hand from my wife's waist myself. My fingers clamped around his wrist, firm and final. His smile vanished. "You don't touch her," I said. "Not now. Not ever." The room behind us felt like it held its breath. Olivia pulled her arm back, stepping away from both of us. Her face was pale, her lips trembling, not with fear of him, but fear of me seeing the truth. Richard muttered something about misunderstanding, about alcohol, about jokes, but I was no longer listening. My anger wasn't loud. It wasn't violent. It wasn't wild. It was sharp, like something forged. And in that moment, I realized something terrifyingly clear. This wasn't just a man crossing a line. This was a line my wife had allowed him to approach again and again. And the real confrontation had only just begun. When we got home that night, Olivia didn't wait for me to speak. She slammed her purse onto the kitchen counter, spun around, and snapped, "What the hell was that, Ethan?" Her tone wasn't guilty. It wasn't apologetic. It was angry. At me. I stared at her, stunned. "What was that?" I repeated. "You let him touch you like that." "It was nothing," she shot back. "It was work. It's how he is with everyone." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the excuse was so pathetic, it almost hurt more than what I saw. "Everyone?" I asked quietly. "Does he press all his employees against walls? Does he whisper into all their ears? Does he put his hand on everyone's waist like he owns them?" She flinched, but only for a second. Then her expression hardened. "You humiliated me," she said. "You embarrassed me in front of my team. Do you have any idea how bad that makes me look? How bad it makes her look?" My chest tightened, this time with a different pain, the cold, hollow kind that spread slowly. "So, that's what matters?" I said. "Not the fact that he touched you? Not the fact that you didn't stop him? Just your reputation." She folded her arms. "I was handling it. You made it worse." My voice dropped to a whisper. "How?" "By treating you like someone who deserves respect?" She avoided my eyes. That was answer enough. A deep, sinking realization spread through me, heavier than the shock at the party, heavier than the anger. She wasn't scared of Richard. She wasn't confused. She wasn't coerced. She had chosen to let it happen. And the worst part? She seemed prepared to keep choosing it. "For God's sake, Ethan," she snapped. "You don't understand how the corporate world works. You don't get how important this is. If a little friendliness helps my career, why do you care?" My heart fell so far it felt like it landed somewhere near my knees. A little friendliness. That's what she called it. "Because," I said, voice trembling, not from fear but from heartbreak, "I thought you valued yourself more than that." Silence. For the first time, something flickered in her expression. Shame? Doubt? But it vanished as quickly as it came. "You're overreacting," she muttered. "You're making a big deal out of nothing." Nothing. That word cut deeper than Richard's hand ever could. Because now I saw it clearly. She would rather sacrifice her dignity than her promotion. She would rather defend a man touching her than admit she crossed a line. She would rather blame me than face herself. In that moment, something inside me didn't break. It died. Not love, not trust, but respect. And without respect, a marriage becomes nothing but paperwork. The days after the party felt like living with a stranger. Olivia tried to act normal. She brewed coffee in the mornings, hummed while getting ready for work, asked me how my day was, all the scripted routines of a marriage running on autopilot. But every time she spoke, all I could see was Richard's hand on her waist. And worse, her letting it stay. The silence between us was thick, suffocating, electric. She felt it too. She avoided eye contact, lingered longer in the bathroom, stayed late at work, anything to outrun the tension clawing at our walls. Then the fallout from the party started hitting her workplace. Richard's behavior hadn't gone unnoticed. HR pulled him in for a conversation. Rumors spread that several employees had complained before. By midweek, he was quietly suspended pending review. Olivia came home that evening looking like a storm cloud ready to split open, and she did. "This is your fault," she snapped the moment she walked through the door. I looked up slowly. "What?" "You heard me," she said, throwing her bag on the table. "Because of your little show, HR is investigating Richard. They think he's inappropriate with employees. Do you have any idea how this reflects on me? On my professionalism?" Something in me ignited. "Reflects on you," I repeated. "He touched you like he owned you, Olivia. I didn't create that." "You escalated it," she shouted. "You made a scene, and now everyone thinks I encouraged it." I stood up, the anger rising in my chest like a tidal wave. "You did encourage it," I said sharply. "You didn't stop him." Her eyes flared with rage. "Do you know why I didn't? Because in the corporate world, you play along. You smile, you endure, you don't blow up your career over a stupid touch." I stepped closer. "A stupid touch that could have become more if you kept letting it happen." She froze, not because she was shocked, but because she knew it was true. A beat of silence, then, "Oh, please," she scoffed. "You're being dramatic. Stop acting like I cheated on you." "You didn't cheat," I said, "but you betrayed something even more important." She rolled her eyes. "Like what?" "Your dignity," I answered. "And mine." Her jaw clenched. She looked away, angry, defensive, cornered. "What do you want me to say, Ethan?" she demanded. "That I'm sorry? That I shouldn't have let him? Fine, I shouldn't have. But I did what I had to do. Some of us actually care about advancing. And some of us," I replied, "care about self-respect." She shook her head with disbelief. "So what now? You want to punish me? Hold this over my head forever?" "No," I said quietly. "I'm done holding anything." That made her blink. The first flicker of fear crossed her face. I inhaled deeply, letting the truth settle in my bones. "I'm done, Olivia. I can't stay married to someone who's willing to trade herself for a promotion. I can't stay with someone who's angry at me for protecting her." She stepped forward, voice cracking. "Ethan, don't do this." But it was too late. Something inside me had already closed. "I'm filing for divorce," I said, steady as a final breath. "This marriage ended the moment you chose your ambition over your integrity." The silence that followed wasn't loud. It wasn't violent. It was absolute. The day I moved out, there was no dramatic scene, no screaming, no plates shattering against walls, just a quiet apartment, the smell of cold coffee, and the echo of footsteps that no longer belonged to a marriage. Olivia wasn't home. I didn't leave a note. There was nothing left to explain. The divorce papers were delivered 2 weeks later. She didn't sign them immediately. I could tell from the way her lawyer tried to negotiate, to stall, to soften the language. She still believed this was a phase, a punishment, something she could talk me out of if she chose the right words. But her words had lost their power long before the papers arrived. Meanwhile, at her company, everything unraveled quickly. Richard's suspension turned into termination. HR released a statement about inappropriate conduct and violation of workplace boundaries. The news spread like wildfire through the industry. His reputation collapsed overnight, and ironically, my confrontation at the party The same one Olivia said ruined everything. Ended up earning me unexpected respect. Colleagues who had been in the room reached out. Executives commended my composure. My manager pulled me aside with a smile and said, "We need people like you leading teams." I got promoted. Not because I wanted it, not because I asked, but because life, in its twisted way, decided to balance the scale. Then, one evening, months after I'd left, Olivia showed up at my new apartment. She stood at the doorway, smaller somehow, like the sharp edges of her ambition had been filed down by consequences she didn't see coming. Her eyes were red, her voice unsteady. "Ethan, can we talk?" I stepped aside just enough to keep the door open, but not enough to invite her in. She took it as a chance anyway. "I lost a lot," she whispered. "My reputation, my promotion. People are avoiding me at work. They think I was involved with Richard, and I wasn't. I swear I wasn't." I nodded, not unkindly. "I know you didn't sleep with him." The relief in her eyes flickered, but it died quickly when I added, "But you let him treat you like someone who might. And that's not the woman I married." Her breath caught. She took a step closer. "Ethan, please. I made a mistake. I just wanted to succeed. I didn't realize I was crossing lines. I didn't know I'd lose you." I looked at her for a long moment, and the most painful part was realizing I felt nothing. No anger, no love, no longing, just a quiet, steady emptiness, the kind that comes when a wound has already scarred over. "I don't hate you," I said. "I just don't know who you are anymore." She reached for my hand, but I pulled back. There was no final argument, no desperate plea, just silence. The same. Silence that ended us the night of the party. I walked her to the door. "Take care of yourself, Olivia." She stood there, trembling. "Is this really it?" I didn't answer with cruelty. I answered with truth. "It ended the moment you forgot your own worth." Then I closed the door, gently, not angrily, and for the first time in months, the silence felt like peace.